A+ Maths. This is Heidi Postle. The next part of corner geometry is the gradient of a line. Now you know from year 7 and 8 that the equation of a line is usually given in the form y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient and the plus c is the y-intercept. And that means where it cuts the y-axis, where the line cuts the y-axis. And if you're given 2 points, we can also find the gradient of the line using this formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. How does this equation work? Because we know that the gradient of a line is really the rise over the run. Don't forget that the gradient of a line is the slope. Most of you would already know this from year 7 or 8. If the gradient of the line is positive, that's positive, then we should know that the line looks like that. And if the gradient of the line is negative, then we know that the line would look like that. And we're going to go into more detail on that later. At the moment, I'm just trying to refresh your memory on what the gradient actually is. The gradient is the rise over the run. It's the slope. It tells us how steep the line is. And the bigger the gradient, the steeper the line. The bigger the gradient, the steeper the line. So that's a little bit of a summary of gradient and what you already know. Remember, if you have a line, any line, it can be joining 2 points A and B. We can say that the coordinates of A and B are 2, 6 and -1, -4. And we want to know what the gradient of this line is. Now we should know the gradient is rise over run. Most of you would already know that. And rise over run, we can do a horizontal and vertical line just like what we did with the distance formula. This is the rise and this is the run. We need to find those distances and then the gradient will be the rise over the run. So the distance here is going to be, I like to label everything, I think it makes it easier. So from -1 to 2, the distance along here would be 3. And from 6 to -4, the distance along there will be 10. So my gradient will be 10 over 3. And if I'm going to do it this method, then I do need to remember that if it looks like that, which my line does look like that, then it has a positive gradient. If I have a look at another one, if I have a line, let's say that has a coordinates of -1, 6, and then I have another one over here which is 5, 2, and I want to find the gradient of this line. Again, I'll label all the points, -1, 6, 5, 2. I need to draw a horizontal and a vertical line. To find rise over run, the gradient is rise over run. Nothing new there. But I need to find that's the rise and that's the run. So between 6 and 2 is 4. And between -1 and 5 is 6. So my gradient is rise over run. But of course, if I use this method, I have to be careful because my line is in that direction. And if a line is in that direction, it must have a negative gradient. And of course, I can divide the top and the bottom by 2. So although that method is really convenient and I actually don't need to know anything new, I do have to remember everything that I'm supposed to already have learned. I have to know that the gradient is rise over run. I have to know that if it's positive, it goes that way, and if it's negative, it goes that way. But you need to know that information anyway. So if you're ever given a picture, just like in distance formula, it might be easier for you to just do rise over run and draw your horizontal and vertical lines. Now let's say that we're not given the diagram and we don't want to really draw the diagram. Find the gradient of the interval joining A, 1, 5 and B, negative 1, 6. Well, of course, we know that the gradient is rise over run, which is really just the difference in the y values over the difference in the x values. We have the formula. You could just learn the formula off by heart. So, I'm trying to find the gradient, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm sure I don't need to tell you what I need to do next. What I need to do? Label the points. Excellent. x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's put in the numbers where they belong. This should be getting very normal now. It should be getting almost boring. 6 minus 5 over negative 1 minus 1. 6 take away 5 is 1. Negative 1 minus 1 is minus 2. You can leave your answer like that, but I actually think that it's nicer to put the minus on the top. So my gradient is negative 1/2. And what does that mean? It means that if I was to draw it, my line would be in that direction. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe. See you next time.